So it's like, it'll be worth this probably going in.
I said you were giving me heads up.
That's why I did it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I had the board.
Yeah.
I wanted to get the pictures. I thought she was and he goes,
Yep.
I have to do it right.
I got a video somewhere.
It's weird though, because with Halloween, that whole interesting.
Yes, that's what I got.
It's funny.
It's only like almost 1.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Bidwill. I'm president of the Arizona Cardinals Football Club. I'm here today. It's one of the hardest days. It is the hardest day in the football life, and that's when you've got to part ways with people that you respect and appreciate all their contributions. One has been with us for 25 years. Who has let us know that he is leaving the organization and has left the organization, and going to focus on his health. And I want to thank Steve for his contributions and wish him well. And then Kliff Kingsbury. I mean, somebody who I've really grown to like and appreciate, just a great man. I've been around this organization my entire life, and I don't know any coach that has worked harder than Kliff Kingsbury. He has put in countless hours. And we had a good long conversation today, in which I told him I'm really sorry, because this is a tough decision. But at the same time, it was a decision that needed to be made. And I wished it could have worked out better for him, because in terms of putting in the effort, there's a guy that really deserved to have the outcome that we were all expecting a year ago or so. The search has started for both the general manager and for a head coach. We're going to cast the net far and wide. I'm doing it differently than we've done it in the past. I've already been on the phone setting up interviews and speaking with people I respect around the NFL, getting their input on the best candidates out there. We are going to look at internal candidates and external candidates, and again, cast the net far and wide. We're not looking at particularly offense or defense. We're looking for two candidates that are extremely strong. The preference is to get a general manager in place first, but if that doesn't happen, we're not going to be afraid to hire the right head coach. And so we're looking forward to moving forward on those interviews. I've already interviewed two internal candidates for general manager, Adrian Wilson and Quentin Harris. I've also interviewed one external candidate, and we've got interviews later this week. And we're trying to set up right now different interviews. I'd also say that I've spoken to a number of our players and have appointments to set up and speak with a number of our leaders in the locker room to continue conversation, to get their input, and to see how we can get the Cardinals turned around. We all thought over the last 3 seasons, or the prior 3 seasons, that we would take the next step up after having achieved a playoff appearance last year. It didn't happen. The people in this room and our fans know all the reasons why, dating back to last year, that different factors that worked against us. Still not an excuse, and we expected better. I expected better, and we deserve better. And that's what our community wants. It's what our fans want. It's what the players want. It's what everybody in this organization wants. So we're going to proceed, and we've been working hard. And I've been on and off the phone since early this morning. Had the conversation this morning with Kliff, and spoke last week with Steve about him focusing on his health. Again, want to wish him well and appreciate all his contributions. So I'm happy to open it up for questions.
Michael, when you say you'll do it differently than you have in the past, can you provide some additional details on how it will be different?
Sure. The league, through the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, of which I'm a member, has some additional requirements as we go through the process. There's a list of things that, I don't know that you want me to get into all those things, but obviously this year I won't have a general manager by my side, but I've got the benefit of reaching out to a number of folks around the league, current general managers, as well as other respected league executives, about who the best and brightest are out there. I'd also say, because of what we've done with diversity, equity, and inclusion in the NFL, I've now had access and an ability. We've had 2 accelerator programs this year, one in May and one just last month in Dallas. And that gave us an ability to do, to visit with and get to know a number of the up-and-coming GM and personnel candidates. And so I already feel like we've started down that road, and so these won't be the first conversations I've had with a number of these folks, not knowing that where we'd be today, back in May or even last month. So I think it's been a very good process that the NFL has created, and it's given me and us a real head start.
Is there a sense of urgency knowing that there are other positions open right now across the league?
Oh, yes, there's an incredible sense of urgency, and believe me, I've been, like I said, on the phone and exchanging texts and messages and phone calls and getting the input of a lot of folks and trying to get a 360-degree view of a number of candidates. And we're also not done looking at it. There is no fixed list at this point. I'm trying to throw the net, cast the net as far and wide as I can.
What's missing from this team when you look at it, besides the injuries and the off-the-field, on-the-field stuff that happened this year? What's missing that caused you to make this change?
Well, I think when you look at the totality of the season, there were a lot of things, whether it was Hop's suspension or injuries or some of the other things that occurred. I think the number one thing is, we need to really make sure that we're getting the most out of those players and that the players are 100% committed to making sure that we do everything we can do. And I've been speaking to some of our leaders, and we want to make sure that we've got the culture of that locker room, the culture of our organization, really focused on maximum effort and making sure we do everything we can do to win the NFC West.
When did you decide to move on from Kliff?
Well, I think you all know that I want to have the benefit of looking at an entire season, and I'm not going to make any decisions without having the benefit of that. And so I wanted to take in all 17 games over the 18-week season. And so, obviously I've been seeing how the team was performing, but I wanted to have the benefit of all 18 weeks to see how we were responding.
Mike, where does Kyler fit into this, and does he, in terms of, you said you didn't necessarily want an offensive or defensive coach, but does his presence, does that play a factor in any of this?
I think so. I mean, right now, obviously he's recovering from a surgery and will be rehabbing in the off season. But I think the big thing is he remains a dual threat, incredibly explosive player, and he's going to recover from this injury, and we're going to have a great player come back next year. And so I think it's really important for us to make sure that we don't lose sight of that. And let's not lose sight of 13 months ago, we were 12-2. We're the hottest team in the league just 13 months ago. And so you've all seen it. There are teams that have been down a few years ago that have flipped around and now are in the playoffs. So I feel like we can be a quick turnaround. We've got to get the right head coach, the right general manager in here, and that we can do that. We've got a lot of talent on this team, and we need to recover from these injuries, get back to focusing on, what are the things that we need to be doing to win the NFC West. And that's ultimately what we need to do, because that's going to give us the ability to host a home playoff game and then hopefully get hot and move on to the divisional and the conference and the Super Bowl after that. That's the goal.
When did the disconnect between you and Kliff happen? I'm assuming there was one, or this wouldn't have happened.
I don't know if there's a disconnect. There was just performance on the field. I think he put in maximum effort. He was in here, as I said earlier. Throughout my lifetime, I've never seen a coach put in more time. And there were just a lot of bad breaks this year, and I think we got to the point to where it was just time for a change.
You okay with light workouts in camp and the walkthroughs instead of maybe more physical practices? Were you okay with the way he ran his ship?
Well, those, again, he did that 2 years ago, and we ended up at 12-2 just 13 months ago. And then, what happened is we were making progress through the first 3 seasons, and then we really regressed this year. And I think we got to a point to where it was just time to go in a different direction.
Did you considering the suspension, all the injuries, offensive line, Kyler, the skill players, giving him one more year to see how he would do if everyone was back and healthy?
I think throughout the season, I think we were all hoping that things would turn around. And we had a lot of, players really step up and try to help us turn around. It just didn't happen. So I felt, in taking all of those, the entire season into consideration, it was just time for a change. My hope was much different. Our hope a year ago was much different for how the 2022 season, we just were hoping and planning that we would continue to progress. Instead, we regressed, and I think it just got to a point where it's time for a change.
You talked about how difficult this day is for you. You kind of touched on, Kliff was first one here, last one to leave. You've been with this organization your whole life. Steve Keim gave half of his life to this organization. The emotional part, these are human beings. What's it like when you have to make these tough calls for you?
Well, it's a tough call from a human standpoint. I think that when you work with people, they're good people, and getting to know Kliff over the last several years, what a great person he is, and I just feel like these are hard decisions, but at the end of the day, my job is to make the right decision for this organization, what's in the best interest of it, and that's where we are with Kliff, and obviously with Steve stepping away. I accepted his resignation, and again, thank him for his contributions.
If you can comment on it, do you anticipate reaching out to New Orleans about Sean Payton?
I'm not going to get into details of any of the candidates we're reaching out to, other than to acknowledge that I've done the 2 interviews with, one with Adrian, one with Quentin.
Are you willing to do what it takes financially to get the best and biggest name as a coach to turn the ship around?
I missed the first part of your question.
Are you willing to do what it takes financially to get the biggest name and the best coach to turn the ship around?
Well, what I'm willing to do financially is get the best coach and the best GM. I don't know the biggest name correlates to the best coach. So I guess what I would say is I definitely want to make sure that we get the best coach and the best general manager for this team, and get this team turned around as fast as we can.
Having to eat some of those contract extensions, having to eat some of those contract extensions play into anything like that?
No, it didn't, and so when you look at it, nobody here is hitting the easy button and saying let's just keep this thing going. We'll live with the financial consequences, and Cam, you guys don't have to worry about it. We'll take care of that. So we'll manage our way through it. I'm gonna
Tyler, and do you wonder, Mike, if some coaches, some GMs question whether that style of quarterback is sustainable in the league? I mean, we know what he's dealing with now, but he's had a bunch of injuries in his 4 seasons.
Well, I just go back to 13 months ago. We were 12-2, and there were a lot of GMs and coaches around the league saying, "Holy cow, how are we going to deal with Kyler Murray?" And we just want to get him back to where he was.
He was healthy then.
Exactly. And so we'll get him back to healthy, and look forward to moving forward. But I also recognize yesterday we were beat by a team with a backup quarterback that was injured, and they had a great team around him that was able to beat us. And so, Brock Purdy and, we got to be able to have that next man up mentality, including at the quarterback position. And hopefully Kyler doesn't have a season-ending injury again, and that we're able to keep him healthy.
Michael, are you willing to consider a coach who would want to have player personnel decision-making authority?
I think when you look at all the models out there, there's a lot to get around coaching, and there's a lot around personnel, and there's always that favorite question of, who's in control of the roster. It's when you look at it, pretty much every team around the league, except for just a few exceptions, there's a real partnership between the general manager and the head coach, and I think that's what we're looking for, rather than trying to dictate something up front. Dan Bickley's agreed to pick up the financial consequences, so he laughed the hardest, Cam. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I will embarrass Dan, though. So there you go.
How much input if any, are you going to give Kyler moving forward with any of the decisions?
Well, we're in communication, and we should be talking later today. We texted and either today or tomorrow, and so absolutely want to get the input of our leaders, including Kyler, and have spoken with a number of leaders already.
Michael, you've been through a few of these coaching searches. What have you learned that'll make this one work? What do you think will help you?
Well, I think I've learned something in every one of the searches, and I think this time around we're gonna learn more. Again, I think the key is casting the net far and wide, making sure that we've got somebody with a very good plan, with the right leadership skills that can come in, not only at GM but also at head coach, to make sure that we build the kind of team and squad and roster, as well as staff and plan on both the offense and defensive side of the ball, to make sure that we can win the NFC West. And when I don't know that we're as broken as maybe people think. I mean, our record is terrible, but when you look at the talent on this team, we've got a lot of talent. We've just got to make sure that they're all playing together.
Did Steve's resignation surprise you?
Player personnel.
Did Steve's resignation surprise you?
Yeah, it was. It was. I don't want to get into details, but I didn't see that coming earlier this year either.
Those conversations with Kyler include hope for or suggestion that he's here doing his rehab during the offseason?
Yes, we're again. I haven't spoken to him, but that's what we'd like to see.
Michael, how much authority do you want to have on player personnel? Are you willing to just give it all over to a general manager? Do you want to have input on the decision making?
Well, that's largely the way it's been. I mean, normally the way I've handled things is I want to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, and I think that's appropriate for me. But I'm not making the decisions about who we're signing and re-signing and things like that.
What would make you go for a head coach before you settle on a GM? Just availability sake? Just strike first?
Well, I'm sure there are lots of factors. I haven't seen it yet, so that's why I say the preference is to hire a general manager first. So.
There's a lot of players from this year's roster. Where do you start in terms of evaluating the 2022 team and going forward?
Well, I don't know that I'll do the evaluating. I'm going to let the general manager and coach do that. But certainly, I think that I did feel like we had the talent to win more games. The injuries really stacked up on us, and it was just unfortunate the way we performed and disappointing. And so, again, that was why it was time for a change.
Adrian and Quentin are bright guys who paid their dues, obviously, but is there any part of you that thinks maybe we need an outside voice in the organization?
Yes, that's why we're casting the net far and wide. I want to be wide open and open-minded about who is the best candidate. It's not necessarily going to be an internal candidate.
Michael, you mentioned you, I think, interviewed an internal candidate already for the head coaching job. Is that Vance, and what do you see from him that could maybe make him a head coach?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I don't think I mentioned that, but if I did, I was mistaken. I expect that we may interview an internal candidate. We have not done that interview, but what I have done is we've had the interviews with both Quentin Harris and Adrian Wilson.
For your head coach, do you want them to be more of a CEO instead of, like you said, it didn't matter if it's offensive or on the defensive side, but do you want them to call plays, or do you like them to be more of that overarching role where they have a coordinator on each side of the ball?
I think I think it depends on the exact person, and I don't want to have any cookie cutter idea about what that model is and what works best. But it's really going to be about, and that's why the preference is to have the GM on board first, so that they can help with the evaluation of who the best coach will be and what that style is going to be.
Michael, why do you think
We'll make this the last one if you don't.
Why do you think this franchise hasn't been able to have a coach last more than 6 seasons over the 100 years within this organization? What do you think you need to see the most to hopefully find more longevity with the head coaching position?
Well, I look forward to our next head coach having a lot of success and being with us for a long, long time, and bringing the kind of winning team to this community that we can all be proud of, and I look forward to that. I thank you for your time and your questions this afternoon, and I'm going to proceed on with the searches. Thank you.